I'm going to call this meeting of the Fargo Public Library Board of Directors to order. We may have a couple more folks joining by phone, but we'll get started. So the first item is to approve the order of the agenda.
Oh, there's Scott.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, nice.
Just for Lori's benefit, if you could say your name prior to making a motion or seconding, so she can get that right. Betsy's home at the moment.
Okay. Sounds good. So anyone like to move to approve the order of the agenda?
I will do so. Rachel.
Chris Shipper will second.
Very good.
Okay, all in favor of approving the order of the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries. Next would be the minutes of the July 21st meeting.
Move to approve, Carlos.
Second, Rachel.
All in favor of the minutes of the July 21st meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the minutes of the July 21st meeting are approved. Next, we have a staff report by Sunny Brannick. Take it away.
All right, so we got a few updates on the staff side of it. There has been a conditional offer made to we have 3-page positions. So Lori has finished doing the interviews for those, and the offers have been extended. So hopefully we'll be able to get them in and start training them sometime soon. On August 13th, we had a pizza party, and that was provided to us from the staff development team as a thank you for.
With money provided by the Friends, so thank you, Friends.
Yes, so to celebrate our 1 month of being open.
Reopen.
Yeah. Programming, we have an upcoming story walk here in September. That's going to be out here in the Civic Plaza, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I don't know if you saw the original story walk that Children's had put up, but it'll be very similar to that. They'll just have the spikes in the ground with the story that you walk through and you read as you go. And then we will also be having, on September 5th, an escape room for children. So check out our online registration page and get registered for that. Teens, again, starting in September, we will have a craft session going up for them as well. Keep an eye out on the website for those dates and the crafts that are going to be released then. Coming up for adult activities, the 18th through the 20th, so starting today, I believe, we're going to be doing the Pairs Well With again. So just come visit us on our Facebook events page, and we'll have a little chat there, and we'll have some people offering suggestions on what you're reading. And then again, the stay-at-home book party. I don't know if you've tuned in for any of those. We'll be having another one of those on the 20th. September through October, we will be exhibiting the Northern Narratives photo competition. So not really necessarily a competition, but we did receive a bunch of photos. We will be putting those up in the gallery, and we'll be figuring out which one of them is a good fit to kind of wrap around the Northern Narratives book cover. So that's an exciting event that will be coming up. And then, of course, the One Book, One Community that everyone's dying to hear about. That'll be going on September 24th. We will have a virtual author visit with Ryan Stradell. He'll be visiting us to talk to us about the Lager Queen of Minnesota. And I don't know if we filled you in on Outreach's Dial a Story, or maybe we teased it a month or two ago. So the Outreach Department, they are doing a new thing since some of their patrons still aren't able to access them because some of the sites haven't opened up entirely. They're doing a Dial a Story. So you can call in and they will read you a poem, or they'll read you a sonnet, something like that. I think that they have like a rotating list of things that they're going through, and it changes all the time. So if you're ever like, I just want somebody to read for me, give them a call. And that number is 701-298-6927 for those of you at home. But if you misplace that, you can always call the library and we can get you that number and hook you up with that.
Neat. Very cool. Does anybody have any questions for Sunny? Sounds like lots of exciting stuff going on already, now that we're back to business. Thank you. Next up is the director's report.
Yes, per your packet, you can see there, one of the significant things I attended was the mayor's preliminary 2021 budget. In terms of that, in regards to the library, the $30,000 for the self-check replacement for the capital budget was funded. Of the operating money we requested, we received most of that in terms of the rent increases and the increases for security costs. Of the 40-some thousand dollars we asked for increase for books and materials, we received 15,000 of that. Overall, we did not receive, they did not fund the reference associate LA3 position that we asked for. And looking at 2021, this is across obviously all city departments, no cost of living increase is posited. Other items in the budget in terms of decreases, and this is across the city as well, 50% reduction on travel and seminar and conferences. The city is stepping up in covering, in terms of health premium increases, was positive for around 21% for 2021, and the city is covering 14% of that. And other items in terms of the 2021 budget, we're looking at a decrease to the part-time benefited line for staffing at $17,433 and materials processing decrease of $10,000. So as in much other departments of the city, we're, some good, some bad, and we move forward from there. In terms of the other items there on my director's report, big things, meeting with staff, department heads, working through project meetings and performance reviews. That's the other major item there. If anybody has any questions in regards to the report in the packet.
Anyone? Did you have a question, Whitney?
Yeah. Tim, you mentioned a decrease to the part-time benefited line for staff. Does that decrease staff hours or staff benefits, or how will that affect staffing?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We're certainly not going to reduce staff. We need every person that we have on the staff to do what we need to do to fill the hours and cover the service desks. So my strategy going forward, obviously, is to maintain staffing and watch overall budget to make sure that happens. And work towards a better number for 2022, essentially. So I don't see any decrease in staffing in that regard. Because we just can't afford to do that with the hours that we're all the desks that we're serving. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, good. Is that it for your report?
Yes,
Tim?
yes, unless
Okay.
there's other questions.
Sounds good. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda is unfinished business. It looks like we don't have any of that. So we'll move on to new business, and there's a couple action items here. The first is overdue fines, and it looks like per our discussion at the July 21st meeting, we will be talking about whether or not to continue charging overdue fines on library materials.
And just to, and per Whitney's request, I did put together a spreadsheet kind of looking at by zip code and, looking at information from data maps, zip data maps and US Census through the three metro zip codes, looking at total number blocked users, then various measurements of income, and then the overall populations within those zip codes. Now, this is fairly general, I would say. Obviously, I live in 58103, and in all of those income measurements, I'm well above that. So there's some variance there. So that's kind of a picture to what Whitney was asking for in regards to that. Certainly on the staff side, the idea of fines has been really discussed. And one of the things is that it does take staff time to manage that aspect of how we do business. Obviously, right now, as you can see that with our last discussion in terms of budget, that obviously revenue is a sensitive topic at this time. Overall, I think to the city that isn't a tremendous amount, it would, but. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm not really married to fines, to overdue fines. I know West Fargo just got rid of them. I think we just offered up a budget that posited a revenue line based on that. But certainly how the board feels in regards to this we'll make the adjustment and the changes. Again, it does cost staff time to manage this cash flow. I think also on the staff side, there's certainly a desire to maintain reimbursement for lost and damaged items. I think we retain that, and I think the fines, overdue fines, is a separate discussion. Because certainly in every conversation we've had about this on the staff side, lost and damaged is something that wants to be maintained, obviously. So obviously, again, the discussion of removing fines, obviously we did that for children's items, and that was really heavy out of the strategic planning process to remove barriers. I know there's a lot of literature out there that talks about that as just overall fines as a barrier to a certain degree. I would say, though, in really looking at the analysis of, if we did get rid of fines, there'd still be a large number of users based on lost items. They had accrued fines and lost items, so it wouldn't be this total wash, obviously, of blocked individuals, but it would reduce the number of blocked and, potentially going forward as well.
So I have a question
Sure.
specifically to that issue. I think before we can have an informed discussion on whether to eliminate fines and fees, we need to understand kind of the process around the whole fines and fees issue. I, for one, am not very knowledgeable as to, when do they kick in? How much is it? Is there a limit? When do people become blocked? When does it go from being a late item to a lost item? Those are things that I think we would like to, I would like it to understand.
I think we could have
before-
Lori come and speak to all of those questions, or Sunny. You got to go up to the, you have to.
He does it more day to day than I do at this point, so.
Sunny is one of our library associate LA2s, essentially a CERC manager. So if there's anything that he lives and breathes on a daily basis, is pretty much every question that you ask. So.
Good.
Yeah. So, to start off with, fines do start accruing. I'll try to remember all your questions. They do start accruing the day after they are due.
Just 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks for most materials. I think the big one that gets most people is the DVDs.
Okay.
And they don't accrue at the same rate. For instance, most materials, most of your 3-week checkouts are 10 cents a day, and your DVDs are 25 cents a day.
Is that the highest rate?
No, I think actually ILL is the highest rate, but those check out for a full month, and so I don't think that we routinely collect a whole lot of late fines on those kind of things, and they're not renewable, and most of our ILL patrons are repeat ILL patrons.
Sure.
They know the system, they know how it works.
So, can you say what ILL
Oh,
stands for?
interlibrary loan, sorry. So when we borrow things from other library systems that we don't have to get to our patrons, that kind of thing. Oh, yes, do you have it?
If you guys have the packet, the search policy is in there, and that's, it's up for, discussion.
Adjustments. So.
Right,
So
right.
it does have fines and charges listed.
Okay.
Yeah, so that has kind of those bigger items on it. They do, late fines max out at $5 per renewal period. So let's say I'm not familiar with the system and I was really late on my DVDs and I hit that $5. If I renew them, I am now eligible for another $5 in late fines on it.
Okay.
And if I keep it even longer than that, let's say I keep it the 65 days it takes for it to go into what we call long overdue lost, then you get charged for the replacement cost of that item. Let's say now I have that item, I feel bad, I bring it back, that that cost will get wiped away from my account, but I am still responsible for those two max $5 late charges, so $10 on that item. And if I took out the max of 10 DVDs and I did that, then that's kind of where one of those friction points comes in at. What were your other questions?
So at what point does an item go from being overdue to being lost?
65 days.
And so if somebody has a lost, if it switches to the status of lost and they bring the item in, what you're telling me is that the lost fee would go away, but they would still be charged for the overdue fines.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then at what point does someone become a blocked user?
When they hit $125, they are eligible to be sent to Red River Collections. We'll run a report. We'll kind of make sure that we haven't missed anything on our end. We send out a courtesy notice to get those items back before.
At $15 though.
Oh, yes.
At $15, they're prevented from checking out.
Sorry, I'm thinking
Okay.
computer usage, because we do have the two different limits. It's $15, as Tim said, for just a normal checkout. At $125, you are blocked from all library services.
Okay. So if it says in your tally here, Tim, number of blocked users, what's that? Is that the $15 can't check anything out, or is that the 100?
It's a mix. It's a mix of folks that in either level, and all those numbers there, each one of them at least achieved the $15.
Okay.
And beyond, there's obviously there folks that are beyond that. They've lost 2 items. They have overdue fines. They've been sent to collections. It runs just the complete gamut.
The gamut. Okay. Okay, that's very helpful. And I have a few more questions, so bear with me. So in terms of letting people know that items are overdue, I know you guys send out emails. What other ways do you let people know?
That is it. So however their account is set up, you will either get the email or the printed notification in the mail. So you'll get your first overdue notice, your second overdue notice, and then the third overdue notice is the bill for that. And then when if you are going to get to that 125 limit RRC, you get actually a fourth notice letting you know that you're going to be sent to collections. And that we usually try to get those items back, because if we can get those items back, then we just call it a wash.
Got it.
Kind of thing.
Okay. And so, so have we noticed any trends with the children's materials since we've eliminated fines on those materials in terms of
the circ has gone up,
Okay.
and I don't think we've seen any appreciable loss or greater truancy, if you will, in terms of that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think, for the harried mother, I think it's an incentive, and something's out of their way and they feel more comfortable with it. So I think on the children's side, it's been a real positive situation in terms of overall circ and the situation. So.
Okay. And then one last thing, what is the percentage of our budget that revenue from fine collection represents?
Ooh, not much.
Okay.
Right now, we're positing around 50,000, and that's for lost and the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
I would imagine with the reduction of that would be looking at around 25 to 30 or maybe less in terms of our overall revenue. But in terms of percentage, you know, we have a budget of about 4.5 million, so
Okay,
it's relatively small.
okay. Okay, maybe one.
It's
one
not a
person.
revenue stream.
Yeah,
No, I mean, it's a legacy approach, if you will.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I misspoke. I do have a couple more questions. I remember recently we did like a food drive to eliminate fees, and as I was doing some research on this topic, that came up repeatedly. Different amnesty type programs and how they were very successful in getting people to return items because they weren't afraid of you know, the repercussions. And so can you give us any insight into how well that program worked when we did that last time? Does that work well?
So the one thing about food for fines that people do get confused about is lost and damaged items are not eligible for those. So we do have a lot of people trying to pay off. They damaged a $30 book. They're trying to pay it off that way. It doesn't work. It only can apply to late fines. But if Tim wanted to change that, he could. So this might be more of a Tim question.
It you know, it did bring some stuff back.
Okay.
You know, it ebbs and flows.
Okay.
I think we've done it a number of times, and sometimes they're bigger than others. Sometimes it's kind of a quiet wash to
Okay.
a certain degree. I think where we are right now in this current environment is obviously we have fines turned off. We've continued that. We're in the process of putting together notifications out to say, hey, you know, we're not charging fines, but be awfully nice if you'd return what you got so we can start helping other folks out. So that'll be going out pretty soon as well. So, yeah, I think we look for every incentive to get the stuff back, because obviously that's more the key aspect of what we're trying to do, because that's obviously losses. And in every library, our business model is prone to loss. But if you can incentivize, you know, or to get folks comfortable so they do bring things back, that's always good.
Okay, so it helps, but it's not an answer.
It's not the end.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. I think that's
Has
all
this
that I wondered
been
about.
complicated by the new, you know, cybernetic changes? For instance, certain parts of our collections that are I should say, you pay for the holdings by you know, yearly or annually by, you know, for serials and so forth.
Oh, you talk about electronic content?
Yeah.
That is not affected by, you know, those things are made in a way that they just go,
They just
Right.
go out and go.
they just vanish.
Yeah.
And the Zinio magazines, you know, the electronic, they don't mind if you keep those forever, because you'll be looking at the ads for as long as you want them. So they're not really interested in you not having them. So this, what Sunny was talking about really has no bearing to e-content at all. So.
I've got a question. So Sunny, you deal with this a lot then? Okay, so how much out of your a given work week would this consume of your time?
I think it's Cheryl's time.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of Cheryl's time. Just daily interactions with explaining, because a lot of times people accrue these fines in very small amounts, and they might not notice for 3-4 years that they've had these, and then they're like, well, when did I accrue this fine? So then you have to go through their entire patron summary with them and explain it to them. So it can take up quite a bit of time just in those small instances. But then the bigger thing is, when we go to send people to collections or the notice management, that does take up time.
I wouldn't see that going away completely.
No.
If we maintain the lost and damage, I could see that easily still generating
Yes.
Red River Collections necessities. Obviously, I think any type of cash handling is time intensive, because it has to be. you have more than one set of hands dealing with cash and signing off on it. That's just what you have to do. You know, one set of folks up front, you know, doing what they do with the cash, getting it to Betsy. She does what she has to do with it through the process, then get it over to the city. So, you know, like just best practices, cash handling. And again, this wouldn't eliminate cash handling by any stretch of the imagination, but it might reduce it to a certain degree.
Do people have to pay cash?
No,
No.
we do have a credit card machine, but we do not have an online payment system set up yet. So if you want to pay, you do have to come in person. So that's one of the things that is a downfall.
So what's your call on this? Do you collect more money than your time that's spent on this?
You know, that was where we left. We were having that discussion, and then everything happened in terms of COVID and everything. So that was one thing that we wanted to get a sense. I wanted to get a sense of. Now, it was really hard to try and wrap around because we had several conversations in that regard. I would say, in just estimation, that I think it is fairly time intensive between staff interactions with patrons, cash, and then the maintenance. And the other thing is, as our integrated library system goes through upgrades and changes, there's always alterations to various screens and structures, and there's always, depending on the size of the upgrade, how that impacts frontline staff like Sunny, where they have to, now this piece of information was here, now it's over there, and kind of redoing that. And would you say that's fairly true? That
Yeah.
that there's this.
It's a lot of minutia, and you have to go through it exactly the same every single time. And if you don't, then a manager has to fix it all the next morning, and that it does take time. And I know Betsy was recently looking at a new payment system, and it was going to effectively double the amount of input that we'd have to do, because we'd have to input it into one system and then walk over and input it into a completely separate system.
I'm not into that, Frank.
So
I've got another question about the interlibrary loan fine specifically, because if are those loans, or are those fines tied to, like, is that library asking for fines, so we have to honor their policy, or because those aren't they at a higher fee too? Those are like 25 cents or something.
Lori might have a better answer
Yeah,
for
25
that
cents
than
more.
I do, because I don't think that any money goes back to the home library for the item.
No, that just is to incentivize people to bring them back because it is another library's item.
Sure.
And so it has a higher fine because of that. But yeah, we don't pass that back on to the other.
We're not
library.
sending some library, all these other libraries, $1.25, 35 cents,
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Okay, so we're not also not stepping on other libraries' toes by, changing a policy here that they,
No,
that's it, okay.
no. And I would just add too, like, there is staff time, of course, but I think a lot of us are just hoping it provides better access to the library for people who, think they have a fine from a million years ago. Tim and I go to business after hours when it happens. It hasn't happened for a long time, but it never fails. At least once every time, someone will come up to us and say, like, "Oh, I have this overdue book, and I've been scared to come to the library ever since." And it's just, I think access. If they have the book, they can bring it back. Obviously, we do want the items back, but the fines aren't that important, I think, in the grand scheme of what the library should be doing in a community. So. But yeah.
Well, and to tag on to that, I don't know how many times we make cards for people who are like, oh, I've not come here for multiple years because of the fines. And it's like, you don't have any fines.
Oh, no.
So that was years worth of statistics that we have lost out on because they thought that they had.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they're like, oh, I bet I have this $30 fine. And it's like, you owe 20 cents.
Oh, wow.
So
So would this policy then apply retroactively? Would we wipe out fines for everybody who currently has fines?
Good question.
You know, I can't speak to, on a technological level, I think what the system would, other than a manual deletion at each point, which would be significant. I think when we eliminated fines on children's items, I believe we maintained the fines that were existing and just went forward.
I think we wiped,
Late fines, but kept the loss and damage because
Yep.
we could differentiate between the two in the system,
Yep.
if I remember that correct.
yeah.
So to answer that, I think if that's the process that we followed in terms of children's items, then we should probably mirror that with adult and the balance of what we have as well then.
But that brings up an interesting issue related to perception that people have fines when they don't, is if people, if there's an announcement in the paper or on the website that says, from going forward, all fines are being wiped away, come on back, then people hopefully will see that and come back. But if people already think or know that they have this big fine and they don't realize that it's going to get,
I think it's how we roll it out.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's the level of PR and
Yeah.
how we phrase it. And I think our community relations person would do a wonderful job of
Yep.
detailing that. Because I think if there's one memo folks would be paying attention to, would be catch their eye, would be that one. So I think we could get enough out in regards to the direction the board desires to go, that I think it will
Okay.
cross the paths of folks in that regard.
What action do we need to take on
Well, does
What-
anyone else have anything they want to talk about or questions? Or that,
Hey,
or-
guys, just a question, if you can hear
Yeah.
me at all.
Yeah, definitely, Scott.
So Tim, what is your plan then to just deter abuse where people just keep a book out for, it looks like at 50 days you start to bill them for the use of, like for the loss of the book essentially. But for those who have like a pet peeve of a book not being there, it seems like you can hold this a lot longer now, right?
That potential's there, obviously. I think we would maintain the notification structure as best we can and continue that. I think certainly at the staff discussion side, admin team side, that, looking at other folks that have done this, that there hasn't been that tremendous impact that one might expect. So I guess I'd rely on that to a certain degree. But certainly like I mentioned, keep the robust notification process in that regard.
What about if someone maybe doesn't get charged a fine, but would we consider still putting their borrowing privileges on hold until they bring the book back? Or does that kind of defeat the purpose? Just an idea.
Well, that is an idea. I mean, it would be, I guess,
$15.
it would be a discussion that's a perfectly legitimate way, I think, going back to admin team and saying, well, if we remove fines, maybe there's an adjustment to the time period where your CERC privileges are blocked, where it's kind of like, well, you don't have to come up with money, but you need to return the item
Yeah,
if you want to check out another one.
right.
And I think then it's not a financial situation at the get-go, it's more of a responsibility situation. So I'm open to that discussion. I think what would be good, and getting to Carlos's question is, I think you basically charge me with going back to the admin team and coming back with changes to the circulation policy reflecting the removal of overdue fines on overdue items and creating structures to incentivize, non-financial incentive, to incentivize the return of items,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
Does that get to your question, Carlos?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else anybody wants to talk about, or?
So we'll have, because it seems like I'm hearing you guys talk about barriers. And so to one extent, it seems like we're maybe eliminating a barrier, a financial one, but then maybe we'd be adding another barrier, a different kind, in terms of people would still feel like, oh, I'm not welcome at the library. But it maybe does balance the, I don't know. Do you guys have any, like, thoughts on, you guys are seeing on the ground running. Do you guys have any input on what that idea?
You know, I have a thought. This is Chris. And if you have a book that is 30 days overdue, which is getting right up there, that's still only $3. I don't see that this fine is going to be a disincentive for people to come to the library. I mean, 60 days is $6, and by that time, it rolls over into lost or damaged. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is not this penny ante, day-by-day, 10 cents a day fine. Look at the lost and damage. My suggestion would be to stay with the no fines through this pandemic. I think this fall they're saying it's going to be worse. People are not going to be going in and out of their homes, and so the possibility of being late on books is even higher than it is right now. Like I say, after they get to that 50 days, whatever, they get assessed for the lost or damaged item, and I think that's what we need to concentrate on, and not this 10 cents a day thing.
Yeah, I get the impression that these fines are primarily symbolic, right?
That's what I believe
We're
too.
trying to create a culture of, the courtesy of bringing your own things in here, and putting a monetary, the money here is being used primarily symbolically, is it not? I mean, this isn't going to break, even if you did keep a book for, until it's listed as lost, how much are you out? It's not really, I'm not sure if the money, if we just did away with it completely.
Well, I think the point to access, I mean, it's true if you have one book out for 30 days and it's $3, maybe that's not a big deal. But if you're checking out 10 books because you have kids and family and everything, that's $30 and
Right.
so on and so on. Again, probably not a deal
Again,
breaker to the
it
library.
runs the gamut,
But,
as
yeah.
what Sonny was talking about, the person with the 10 DVDs.
Right,
It's happened.
right.
And,
Frequently.
Right. But again, the point of the fines is we want the books back or the DVDs back. It's not that we want to make someone pay
Right.
because we're really mad or you need to be punished. It's not a punitive thing.
That's
It's
kind
an
of what
incentive to get
I'm
the books back.
when I say it's symbolic, I guess what I'm looking for is some symbolic incentive here that is not does not deal with money.
Well, it sounds like, according to Tim, we can move and approve a motion to eliminate fines and have his team figure out the fine details regarding how to continue to incentivize people to bring their items back in a timely fashion without using fines as the incentive. So is that something that someone would like to throw out there?
I will motion that.
Okay.
Okay, Rachel, yes.
Okay, would somebody read that motion to me? Back up.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not getting it either, what the motion actually is for.
I think the motion is to eliminate.
well, it's I read it as the motion is that the board is charging myself to go back to the library admin team to come back with a draft circulation policy without overdue fines, eliminate the financial aspect, to retain lost and damaged fees as part of that, but to identify non-financial incentives for the return of items. Is that helpful?
Okay, I can second that, Carlos.
Okay, well then,
Rachel?
yes.
Rachel motion, Carlos second,
Okay. So any discussion on that motion?
because we haven't had enough discussion.
Tim, are you going to be looking at what other jurisdictions that have gotten rid of fines or eliminating fines are currently doing? Or how will you
Absolutely,
guys?
yeah.
Okay,
We'll make
great.
that part of the discussion. Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll also say, because I haven't said really much, you guys like hit all my questions. I was like, check, check, check. I'm really excited for this, to be having this discussion. And I just really love getting rid of barriers to information and access, just making it accessible, because I love reading, and I hope other people don't feel that anxiety coming back to the library when they have a fine. You know, I just feel so bad that people would not come to the library for a long time, and I hope this encourages more community members to come back in.
Well, thanks for bringing it up and getting it on the agenda. It's a good thing to discuss. So if there's no other topics of discussion, then all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
I
Was that aye a yes?
That was I,
Aye.
As a-
Yep, as an aye. Okay, good. Okay. What?
was it Scott, was that I opposed?
Nope.
Or, no, for, okay,
That was a thumbs up. So
yeah, we're
Scott
good.
okay, very good.
supports it. Thank you, Scott.
It's that delay that made it.
I know, right? Exactly.
Maybe we should do, those in favor say aye, those opposed say nay, then we'd know.
Yeah, well, we usually don't get any nays, so
True, no
everybody just
naysayers.
agrees.
That's true.
Okay, well then that motion passes. So motion approved. Excellent. Thank you for all that good information from the library staff. So our next item then would be the circulation policy draft. Should
Yeah.
we still do this even though we're?
I think this is a kind of a different discussion.
Okay.
And what it is I know the original action item summary mentioned the idea of bike locks, and this is certainly where this is coming. Now, the actual language in the circulation policy draft talks about, you can see in red there, the day use items, 1 day, no renewal, no holds. This comes out of more discussions with the admin team, where there's the possibility in the future, along with the new thing being bike locks as the first day use item that we're going to have in terms of the collection, that we may in the future have additional day use items. And then instead of having all this laundry list of all these particular things, we will just know that within the integrated library system, that they're day use, and they have day use structure within that. And then the policy reflects that and how the system sees them. So instead of us always coming back with, this is a new item is more of, it fits the item type of day use item, and then we can just immediately get it on board and get it to the public. So where the action item summary sheet explains it in terms of the bike lock, the language within the draft really reflects the idea of day use items as the current with the bike lock and additional day use items in the future. Kind of getting in the last one under the damaged items paragraph, removing kind of the limited laundry list of replacement fees, and knowing that through CERC managers and CERC admin, that they do have a more exhaustive list for lost damage that they utilize in that regard, and leaving it for the simple phrase, the line there, missing or damaged items from multi-part sets and kits will be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Because these things run a myriad of situations and that we run into, and we want to have that flexibility to help folks in regards to those situations.
Okay. Well, I love the idea of bike lock checkout. That's cool. Okay, so does anyone have anything to discuss here or any questions?
I do have, this is Chris, I do have two different items.
Okay.
One is under the borrower agreement to present their card or acceptable picture ID. Now, I have been in, spontaneous and not had my library card with, and I said, here's my driver's license, and they would not accept it. So is this something new that you would accept picture ID?
It is relatively new, yes. Very, very new.
That's awesome. That's really good. And then my other item is on the last page, the revision approved date page. It says delinquent borrowers who have over $100. Now, Sunny has been talking, and you've been talking throughout the meeting that it has gone up to 125 in fees.
Okay.
That will be turned over to collections.
Well, I guess.
So I mean, it doesn't matter one way or the other, but I think, that we should be on the same page. If it's going to be 125, we should put that revision in with the others.
I agree.
Right.
We'll verify and make it marry up
Okay.
to that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for noticing that discrepancy.
Bet.
Anything else? Okay, well, this is an action item, so
Move,
like to take action.
move to approve, Rachel?
Okay. And do we have a second?
Well, I'll second with the revision of the, to confirm that to the collections amount. So I will subject it to that.
Perfect. So does that reflect your motion,
Yes.
Rachel? Okay, perfect. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of the circulation policy draft, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, the circulation policy draft with the confirmation on the amount of fees sent to collection is approved. And then we have statistical reports next. Let's
Right.
talk about July usage.
Yeah, and obviously you're looking at a half a month of July as we opened on the 13th. It was awfully great to get open. Certainly see the impacts there across the board. I'll be interested to see what August looks like. I can say that, it's been about 4.5 weeks since we've been open. I would say currently that starting up north, Northport is really quiet. Very, very quiet. Maine is steady. Carlson is steady to busy, and Carlson's got the Dr. James Carlson Library has really picked up, especially in the afternoons. But it's still a different world, but it's good to be open. You can see that impact there in terms of certainly attendance across the board there, and circulation, obviously. So if
Okay.
anybody has any questions there.
Okay, if there's no questions, how about the July financials?
Sure. Per the packet, in terms of the donation summary, you can see the itemized and then the detail there for July. The $95 was of the $95 of unrestricted donations. 75 was memorial donations, and $20 was from a patron that received reference help and was awfully happy with it. The $350 is from the Friends. Thank you, Friends, for the Northern Focus program. That's the photo contest. On the expenditure side, just the last expenses for the merchandising project up in the second floor of Maine. You can see the $3,027 for the architect Stone Group architect fees for that, and then the $776 for the stools for upstairs. Then also $776 all from the Friends for the Northern Focus that was spent, and Crafternoons and Book Page. So again, thank you for the Friends for that. And more of the, obviously the 1,718 is going out for the books for summer reading program, that was also Friends. And $100 for staff development, Hornbacker gift cards for staff. So thank you for the Friends for this. Again, always when we look at this, it's a big thank you to the Friends for everything that they help us do.
Great. Okay,
In terms of operating, you can see that through the end of July, 58% of the fiscal year lapsed. We are looking at just under 53% of the budget expended. Looking good towards the end of the year, obviously, and eyeing needs as we go forward in that regard. The revenue, you can see half a month of July of revenue there, better than it was blank the month before. So a little bit trickling in there through the middle of July in terms of revenue.
okay. Looks good. Any questions? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, thanks, Tim. It'll be good to see next month kind of
A full month.
back to normal a little bit more
Yep.
after we have a whole month.
I have a compliment for usage. There's two staff that help me. I'm a new converter to the electronic world that the library offers. Thank you. I got a different car and it didn't have a CD player, and that's how I was listening to all the audiobooks. And so I went in there asking, if you guys rented out, loaned out CD players, and how I would get to figure, that out. And then they had all these handy little bookmarks that explain Hoopla and Libby and Overdrive, and it was exceptional. The two staff that helped me, they were exceptional, and I went and used the little handouts that night, and I've been listening to streaming audiobooks since, and I feel like my summer drives have been changed forever. So thanks, compliment to the library staff and the electronic system. I'm plugging it. It's awesome. So a compliment. But
So what have you been reading?
oh gosh, Carlos, a whole bunch. I'm listening rather.
Listening.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I
yes.
can give you my
Mind
whole-
reading.
Yeah.
That's right.
We should have a test. You should write a testimonial.
I should.
Facebook or
I've been
something.
transformed. It's wonderful.
I love that. I want to go get some of those bookmarks now. That sounds like a good idea. Thank you. And thank you to whoever those people were that helped Rachel. It looks like the next item is the Friends of the Library report, but alas, there are no
I
friends.
can mention something. A couple weeks ago, they had a book sale outside,
Yeah.
and I helped set up and take down. And the comments were from the gals, from the Friends, at the end of the day, that they felt very good about it. Didn't have any overall numbers at that moment, but they felt really good that it was very well. They kind of corresponded it obviously with the farmers market, which is
Oh, nice.
adjacency, and they put the big sign out there. So I think it really worked out well for them.
Great
so
idea.
It's good.
Good.
And and their store is back open.
Oh, it is. That's
In May.
what I was gonna ask.
Awesome. Good deal. Okay. Well, thank you for that abbreviated report. Finally, we have public comment. Sunny's waving at me, but I don't know if that counts. Okay. Yes, I feel bad too, but there's no public here. Okay, our next regular meeting then is September 15th, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.